Okay, so welcome back to my channel. Okay, this is going to be a quick recap of Striking Out Season 2, Episode 3. Okay, there's so many characters, so many moving parts that eventually intersect. It's just so many storylines. Okay, I misspoke in the last recap. Eric did go home with Lucy, so Eric is waking up at Lucy's place. He's running around trying to get himself together because he's supposed to be meeting with Nigel. Nigel is one of the moving pieces in this whole inquiry thing that has to do with the building of the hospital. I think Nigel is a contractor. Okay, so he's getting himself together for that. Tara is meeting with George so she can get an update on Ray's case. The ombudsman is still investigating the officers who arrested Ray and trying to see their connection to how that all played out. How, basically, who hired them and what was the reasoning for that. Okay, so George is also meeting with Carolyn. So Carolyn, if you don't remember who Carolyn is the woman that Eric was sleeping with when Tara walked into the apartment. Okay, so you can imagine this was an awkward situation. So George is standing there like, I believe you two know each other. And so, of course, they're looking at George like, bitch, don't you... Okay. Now, and of course, Carolyn is like, oh, hi, Tara. And of course, Tara's like looking at her like, bitch, don't talk to me, don't look at me. I hate your face. I hate the fact that you breathe the same air that I breathe. Oh, be gone, basically. So, eventually Tara was like, okay, yeah, this has been fun. I have some things that I need to do, so I'm going to go on and go, right? So she's walking away. She calls Ray, asks Ray to pull Monica Bridges' case. Now, Monica is her new client. Monica is a former nun who was suing the convent for a host of reasons. And so, Tara is, on her way to the office. So, Eric finally makes it to this office and he meets with Nigel. Eric is meeting with Nigel and Richard is meeting with the Minister of Health. I can't remember his name. And basically, they're meeting with their clients because they found out that Vincent is meeting with Deidre York. York was the head of procurement. So, they're concerned about what Deidre might reveal that has to do with this whole scheme that they came up with to basically defraud the taxpayers out of $18 million. So, they seem to be basically unbothered by the fact that she's going in, and Nigel was very like, nobody talks to their wife anyway, and he was done with that. So after their meetings with their respective clients, Richard and Eric meet up, and he was basically asking him about the meeting with Tara and Monica. And basically, everybody's in agreement that they really don't have a leg to stand on. It's not going to hold up in court. So, okay, they part ways. Tara and Monica arrive at Dunbar. They're sitting in the conference room, and they're meeting with Eric and Julie. Julie is the attorney that Tara signed her cases over in episode 1, I believe it was. And she was also the person that kind of showed up at the bidding. The attorney who died, and Tara went to bid on cases. Again, Richard sent Julie there to kind of stick it to Tara. Just anything to make her life miserable, right? Okay. So now she's sitting across from these two people. And they offer Monica $15,000. Of course, she said no. They came back with a 20,000 pound offer. She said no. And so it was agreed that eventually they're going to go ahead on to court. Okay. So Rosie is the person who was helping Vincent. She was the person who left, who they were referring to in the last episode. And so now he has a new assistant. I don't remember what his role is. And she was referred to him by, his name is Joe, I think his name. He was referred to Vincent through Tara. And Joe is this kind of geeky guy, but he's excellent, great at what he does. And you can tell, the scenes with him are not long, but Joe annoys Vince for some reason. Like, it's something about Joe that annoys Vince. Okay, fine. So he's running behind Vincent with all this paperwork because, Vince is they're trying to, again, get their paperwork together because this is the day that they're supposed to be meeting with Deidre, I believe. So they're trying to make sure they have all their ducks in a row. Okay, so after the meeting, I forget where Tara and I forget where Tara and Monica was. I think Monica was because right now Monica is staying in a homeless shelter. So I don't know if she was helping them take food off the truck or to feed the homeless or something. But this is where she went into more detail. Basically, the land that Monica's family owned was signed over to the convent at around the same time that Monica joined the convent. And there was a verbal agreement between Monica's father, and Sister Mary Patrick that the land and the proceeds would be used to benefit the homeless. That was the agreement. And so that never happened. And there were some allegations of sexual misconduct that she felt wasn't being handled properly and basically was being covered up by the church. So those were her gripes with the church and why she was suing the church. Because one, she's been a nun for the past 20 years. She's left the convent. She doesn't really have any employable skills. She's an older woman. She's like, basically, what is she going to do with her life? And so that is one of the reasons why she's suing. And that kind of changed things with her a little bit. Like, okay, so there was a verbal agreement, which is something that is able to be held up in court, that this land will be used for a specific purpose, and the church has not honored that agreement. So, okay, so, let's see. So, Irene arrives so Steve drops Ray off at work, and it's just one of those, you can see where Ray is kind of out of it, like he's there physically, but he's not there. They're kind of sitting in the car, and Steve is basically trying to talk to him, and he's really not all that engaged. And so he see Irene, Tara's mom, walking down to Tara's office with some boxes, and he basically said, I have to go and help her. And he jumps out the car to go and help her. And so she's basically there to help kind of Tara organize her office and her cases. Her mom used to be a legal secretary, so she's very familiar with how this whole process works. Okay. And so, let's see. So eventually I'm kind of jumping around here. Tara eventually gives Ray a check and basically says, okay, this is basically Meg's final payment, and asks him if he can run the payment over to her. And just basically to get rid of her. Like, we won't have to deal with her anymore. This is our last payment, and we'll just be done with it. So Ray goes over. We went over and gave her the payment, and basically Meg was like, I do what I have to do to feed my children. It's not about, things for her is not, it's not really about loyalty or right or wrong. She's basically like, I do what I need to do to feed my children. And she did apologize to him for getting him caught up in some shit. And he basically apologized to her for snooping through her stuff and getting Dunbar's number. And it's unclear where they're going to go from there. Like, I don't think that he's ever going to really trust her, but that whatever animosity that he had for her kind of went away, I guess, for now. So, because later on in the episode, Meg did eventually have some kind of clandestine meeting with Richard, and Richard gave her a file on Deidre and basically wanted her to find out everything she can find out about Deidre York. Okay. So, we're going to see what comes of that. So, basically, while Irene is at the office, she receives a call from Conrad, which is her husband, Tara's father, and she basically sent it to voicemail. And so this is where you get the first glimpse, like, okay, something is not right with them. And you find that, it's like she didn't want to go home. She basically was there at the office organizing Tara's stuff, and you eventually get to feel, okay, something's going on with them. And so Tara ended up having to go to the court, and she saw her father leaving. They didn't see her, but she saw her father leaving. He was really teeing and cackling with Judge Andrews. Now, Judge Andrews is the judge who presided over the custody case in the previous episode. So Tara was kind of looking like, okay, that's kind of strange. But then I'm thinking to myself, okay, they're colleagues. So colleagues go out for lunch all the time, go out for cocktails all the time. But they were kind of chummy. So she was kind of like, But of course, she kind of didn't think nothing of it. So I'm like, oh Lord, what is he up to? So, Lord, so many people, so many moving parts. It's so much. Okay. So eventually, Tara and Monica go to. They take a train to the land where to see the land, and while they're there, walking around, Tara receives a phone call that I think Ray. I don't know if it was Ray or her mother had did. She asked him to do research on the land, and it came back that the church is actually in the process of trying to sell the land. And so Tara had to let Monica know, and basically she called back and she asked Ray to file some document so that any prospective buyers would know that land is basically there's a legal dispute over the land at this point, so they would be aware before they purchase the land. And so the goal was, and then Tara also wanted to file an adjournment. And basically, she basically thought that by doing this would force their hand, and they would settle with her and give her basically whatever the amount she was looking for, so they can go ahead and continue with the sale. And so, so what eventually happened is, so she filed the paperwork, and they have a set court date. So who is sitting on the other side of the table? So she's going to actually be in court with Carolyn, because apparently Carolyn works for Dunbar, and it was asked. I think Lucy asked Eric, "Is that why you put Carolyn on it to throw Tara off?" And he really didn't say too much about it. So it's like, okay, Lord, this family is a piece of work. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out. So probably we did that. Okay, so as the day started winding down, you saw Tara. She was at some kind of restaurant. It may have been some kind of B&B or some. It was some kind of place like that. And so Carolyn just happens to show up. So Tara's at her table looking over the menu. Then Carolyn walks in, who's sitting at a table across the room. They notice each other. For whatever reason, Tara decides to go over and she sits down in front of Carolyn. And Carolyn was like, okay, basically she was expecting that at some point. Now, why Tara would go over and talk to this woman, because it doesn't seem like they were ever like friends. They were colleagues, like professional colleagues, but they weren't friends. And so the fact that she would go over and talk to this woman, like anything this woman can say to her is going to make her feel any better. And then she was asking the weird questions, because Carolyn was like, well, you can just ask me whatever you want. And so she was asking her how many times, how good was it, did she care for him? It was like she was asking all these kind of, in my mind, crazy questions. Like I'm just not a person who feels like the woman should be confronted in a situation like that. But for whatever closure she felt she needed, she sat down and she talked to Carolyn. And so at this point, it was flashing back and forth, because you had Tara and Carolyn sitting down having their conversation. And then you flash to Eric and his family. So Eric has gone to dinner with his family. And who was Sam, the mom, and of course the dad. And before meeting them for lunch, he was sitting and going through Eric's file. He was researching, and he asked Lucy to do whatever research she can find and find out whatever she can find out about the guards who arrested Ray. And so Sam walks into the office, and they eventually leave to meet their parents for lunch. And so, and Sam is basically sitting down, and Sam basically told Eric that he felt that he made a mistake. Now, you kind of get from that inference that he's talking about he made a mistake by screwing up with Tara. And so, of course, Eric is sitting there like, okay, like I don't already know that. And so then Richard asked about Tara. And so Eric was like, I guess she's doing fine now that her office manager is out of jail, which is Ray. And basically, Richard at this point is trying to act like he don't know who the hell Ray is. Like, Ray, who's that? I don't know who that is. I've never heard that person. Who is this? Who is this Ray person, right? And so basically, Sam eventually asked their father, like, "What did you do to piss Eric off?" And before Richard could say anything, he was like, "He's trying to destroy Tara, trying to destroy Tara's business." And he was like, "You're basically mad that she was able to create something without us, and basically you've just been screwing with her." And he actually told him this anyway, that he always felt that when he retired, he always felt that it would be him and Tara to take over. And so he, basically, I forget when his mother got up and walked out because she went out to have a cigarette. Um, basically, he basically admitted that he did what he did because he basically wanted Tara to run back to Eric and for there to be some kind of reconciliation, which he now sees is not going to happen. And so Sam was basically like, "Dad, just apologize for whatever it is that you've done so that we can move past it." And so he asked about, and so he and Richard basically apologized. Eric eventually gets up to leave, and he runs to his mom, and his mom is basically like, "Everything your father does is to help you." And so he gives her a hug and a kiss, and he kind of goes on about it way. And so it flashes back to Tara. And they've closed the place down. They're still sitting there throwing it back and having a conversation. So you don't sense the animosity that was once there. But they ain't about to be friends anytime soon. So basically, they basically parted ways. Like, I'll see you in court, because the court case was the following day with Monica versus the church. And so Carolyn leaves first, and then Tara eventually leaves, and she forgets her scarf. Somehow Eric shows up at this same place, and he goes to the bar, and he sees the scarf. I guess he recognizes the scarf. Somehow he knew it was Tara's. Still confused about that. And Tara basically walks back in because she realized she got to get the scarf. They exchange words, and they part ways. So it's the day of the trial. Before they even go in to meet with the judge, Dunbar came back with another offer saying they would give her $75,000. She said no. They came back with 80. She said no. Of course, Tara and her representative. I'm not really sure how their system works because Tara is her lawyer, but then there's another person in the court that argues the case. I have to try to do some research on that, but they're both like, take the damn money, because in the end you could end up with nothing. You really don't. You don't really have a strong case. And she was adamant, like, no, I want to fight this. So they go into the courtroom, and Monica is on the stand. She basically reiterates what she said to Tara about how she felt like they were covering up the sexual abuse and whole misuse of the land that was promised, the verbal agreement, the whole thing. And so then Sister Mary Frances comes up, gets on the stand. She confirms the land sale. But what she also reveals is that, and this is something that Monica didn't know, the reason they were selling the land was because they were going to take that money to offer some sort of compensation to the victims, who were the people who were sexually abused, and their families. But she didn't know that. And so the attorney said, well, why didn't you tell Monica that? And basically Sister Mary Frances was like, because quite frankly, it's none of Monica's business how the church handles their business. That's not something that she needs to be privy to. And so basically in the end, the case was thrown out. The judge basically sided with the courts, which they knew going in that would happen, really. I mean, it wasn't really a surprise, but of course, Monica's disappointed. She walks out, and she leaves the court, and she's kind of walking along, I guess, in her thoughts. And so Tara runs into Eric outside the court, and he basically said that the church has basically said they would gift her the $75,000 they initially offered her. So she's not going to walk away empty-handed. But it's not what she wanted. So, there was a caveat. They would give her the $75,000 if she signed a non-disclosure agreement. So, Tara, for whatever reason, tells her that Ray's arrest is being investigated. Basically, now the ombudsman, they're investigating the officers involved. Why she told them that? Okay, whatever. But basically, like, at any point now, your father's name could come up in this mess. And basically, are you going to be prepared for that? I'm assuming that's why she did it. But, okay, they're winding down. Tara's back at home. And she basically just doing what we do when we're at home. She has, like, her mask on. She, in her sweats. And there's a knock at the door. It's Sam. And initially, he wanted to take her out. But she's basically like, I'm not going out. So she invites him in. And they sit down to have popcorn in the movie. Something happens where the popcorn bowl is flipped over. Whatever the case may be. But something happens where they eventually being a little too close for comfort. And Sam basically plants one on her. He kisses her and she kisses him back. And of course they both are looking like, oh shit. So Sam basically was like, I am so sorry. I should not have done that. I'm going to leave. So he left. Tara's kind of sitting there like reeling like, Like she knows it's wrong, but she actually liked that. And so you flash to Irene. Irene is still in the office. It's like she still hasn't said anything, but the fact that she has been in Tara's office all freaking day. It's like she's been intentionally finding stuff to do to avoid going home. So she's basically sitting there all alone because obviously everybody else is at home, and you could tell that she knows that you could tell that just by her behavior that she feels like her husband is being unfaithful to her once again. And, it ends with Eric going to Lucy's place. So, basically, and actually Ray is kind of sitting, you can see him sitting down and he's looking through like a college catalog because he's contemplating, going back to school, and probably it's going to have something to do with law. So, yeah, that's basically how this episode ended. Like I said, these episodes, it's so much packed into this. It's like 45 minutes to an hour, and there's so many people, so many different storylines that eventually connect. It's a lot going on. It's hard at times to keep everything straight. So, yeah, I'm trying to do the best I can to try to be more proficient at this, to make this easier for me to get the information out. But it can be quite difficult. So, bear with me. So I'm going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys later.